What happens when a woman finally speaks about her divorce, yet every word she chooses feels like a fragment of a much larger sentence? What happens when the explanation offered is so careful, so measured, that it seems intentionally incomplete? That was the reaction when Kandi Burruss, a woman who has built an entire career on transparency, directness, and emotional honesty, finally broke her silence on the end of her marriage to Todd Tucker. Instead of finding clarity, fans found themselves staring into the gaps between her words, listening closely to the pauses that lingered just a little too long, and wondering why the woman who has never hesitated to set the record straight suddenly seemed unwilling to give the full picture. There was no outburst, no anger, no finger-pointing, no attempt to paint Todd as the villain in a narrative that had already begun writing itself online. Just quiet, deliberate phrasing and small, tense silences that felt heavier than anything she actually said. And in celebrity culture, where silence is often interpreted as strategy, those pauses became the heartbeat of a story that refused to settle. Almost immediately, social media ignited with questions, some reasonable, others reckless. The loudest and most volatile among them was the one that placed Todd Tucker at the center of an unverified rumor. Was he caught? And more specifically, was he caught in a situation involving another man? A claim with absolutely no proof, yet one that spread with astonishing speed because the public sensed something unspoken and filled in the blanks themselves. But no receipts have surfaced, no witnesses have stepped forward, no official statements have confirmed anything. The rumor didn't come from evidence, it didn't come from facts. It came from timing, body language, and the eerie calm surrounding a divorce that arrived much more quietly than the tension people had sensed for years. And when a woman like Kandi, who has survived lawsuits, public feuds, reality show conflicts, and viral controversies, suddenly chooses restraint instead of revelation, people don't interpret that behavior as weakness. They interpret it as containment. And it's that containment that keeps so many fans uneasy. Tonight, we're not here to accuse anyone. We're not here to validate rumors or amplify baseless claims. We're here to examine the narrative itself, how it formed, why it grew, and why the situation is being driven less by what happened and more by what was left unsaid. Because sometimes the loudest scandals are the ones born out of silence, the ones that take shape not through facts, but through unanswered questions that audiences aren't willing to let go of. When Kandi Burruss finally addressed her divorce, the moment played out nothing like her fans expected. This was a woman known for her emotional transparency, someone who for over a decade has sat on reality TV couches and told the truth, even when it was uncomfortable. When she spoke her mind, she did it with conviction. When she felt wronged, she confronted it. When a rumor was false, she shut it down without hesitation. But that version of Kandi wasn't the one who appeared during her post-divorce comments. Instead, viewers saw a woman who seemed unusually guarded, almost rehearsed, not robotic, but undeniably cautious. She spoke in broad terms about growth, peace, and choosing what was best for her journey. The phrasing was elegant but vague, like someone narrating a summary rather than sharing a personal truth. She didn't attack Todd. She didn't cry. She didn't vent. She didn't even hint at wrongdoing. She simply offered a polished, distant explanation as though she were protecting something or someone from the weight of public scrutiny. And fans noticed instantly. Social media threads described her tone as distant, her posture as controlled, and her pauses as meaningful. It wasn't bitterness they were sensing, it was detachment. The emotional neutrality was so unusual for her that people began speculating that the real story wasn't in what she said, but in what she carefully chose not to say. In a divorce this public, silence becomes a clue, and people began listening closely. Kandi and Todd's marriage didn't exist behind closed doors. It existed on television sets, in interviews, across social media platforms, and inside storylines that reached millions of viewers. From the very beginning, the relationship was analyzed, critiqued, and questioned. Todd was often placed under a microscope, with people asking whether his ambitions aligned with Kandi's, whether his intentions were genuine, or whether the power dynamic between them was imbalanced. Throughout the years, moments of tension appeared in subtle ways. Disagreements that felt unresolved, body language that hinted at emotional distance, financial debates that resurface repeatedly, and conversations where Kandi often seemed to be carrying the heavier emotional load. Some fans chalked it up to normal marriage struggles, while others insisted that small cracks, when seen consistently over time, reveal much deeper problems beneath the surface. So when news of the divorce broke, reactions were mixed. Some fans felt the separation was inevitable. Others were shocked by how quiet the announcement was. No scandal, no dramatic fallout, no fiery social media posts. Just a surprisingly calm confirmation. And for a moment, it seemed like the story would simply dissolve, a rare, peaceful celebrity breakup. But then Kandi started speaking publicly, and the more she spoke, the more people began noticing what she wasn't willing to say. Suddenly, the divorce didn't feel peaceful anymore. It felt contained. As fans dissected Kandi's interviews, their focus shifted from content to delivery. They studied her pauses, they analyzed her redirections, they noted how she avoided certain specifics, how she danced strategically around certain questions, how her explanations seemed carefully limited to emotional themes rather than concrete reasons. These were not the behaviors of someone blindsided, they were the behaviors of someone protecting a boundary. And when boundaries appear in a story without clear context, the internet fills them with imagination. Old scenes from Real Housewives of Atlanta resurfaced, moments of subtle tension were reframed, comments from years past were reinterpreted, and somewhere within all of that noise, the unverified rumor emerged, the claim that Todd had been caught with a man. It was an explosive allegation with no evidence whatsoever, yet it spread widely because it was dramatic enough to catch attention and vague enough to avoid immediate dismissal. To be perfectly clear, there has been no proof, no confirmation, no solid reporting, nothing credible supporting this claim. But rumors don't rely on proof, they rely on emotional gaps. And the silence surrounding Kandi's divorce gave the rumor enough oxygen to ignite across social media. What made matters worse was that neither Kandi nor Todd chose to directly address the rumor. They didn't repeat it, they didn't deny it forcefully, they simply didn't touch it. And in the world of celebrity narratives, neutrality often looks like hesitation, even when it's simply an attempt to avoid adding fuel to something false or deeply personal. Kandi didn't disappear after the divorce, but she did adjust her visibility. She showed up for responsibilities, business ventures, media appearances, and professional obligations. But her interviews became surface level. When conversations drifted toward her personal life, she redirected. When Todd's name came up, her tone tightened. When the subject of the divorce hovered too close to specifics, she moved on. However, People magazine was the first to release Kandi's official, exclusive statement, and her words were emotional, intentional, and very telling. She said that after a lot of deep reflection and prayer, she made the decision to move forward with a divorce. She emphasized that this is an incredibly difficult and emotional time for her, but that her priority right now is protecting her peace, being the best mother she can be, and co-parenting with love and respect. She described this next phase as a new chapter where she's focusing on her work, her family, and her personal growth. She ended by thanking everyone who supported them through the years and asking for privacy and understanding as their family navigates this major transition. Now, on paper, this is a classic celebrity divorce statement: gracious, controlled, respectful. But what's grabbing everyone's attention is not just the statement itself. It's the fact that fans have seen signs for months, some subtle, some not so subtle, that something deeper was going on behind closed doors. And if you've been watching my videos, then you know I've been reporting for days now that this storm was brewing. There were signals, comments, little moments caught on live streams or in interviews that hinted at real tension beneath the surface. Let's talk about one of the biggest indicators: family dynamics, specifically involving Mama Joyce. If you know anything about Kandi's storyline over the years, you know that Mama Joyce has never been shy about expressing her feelings regarding Todd. From the beginning of their relationship to their engagement and throughout their marriage, Mama Joyce has always had a strong presence and a strong opinion. And while Kandi has often tried to take the high road, keep the peace, and respect her mother, Fans have long wondered how much strain that constant tension put on her marriage. Just a few days ago, Kandi herself admitted in a live stream that things were not good between Todd and Mama Joyce. She said the two were having problems again, and what stood out to people is the casual way she said it, as if this was a normal cycle in her life. She mentioned that there were times Mama Joyce wasn't feeling her, and she said it with such ease that it actually made a lot of viewers uncomfortable. She explained that sometimes her mother is cordial, sometimes she isn't, and that this back and forth has become part of her life. And listen, this is where things get complicated. Some fans believe that Mama Joyce's issues with Todd stem purely from her own opinions and personality. But others believe, as many have said over the years, that some of Mama Joyce's complaints come from things Kandi herself shares with her. And if that's the case, then the question becomes, how much influence has Mama Joyce had over their marriage, and did that influence play a role in this divorce? In the same live stream where Kandi talked about the ongoing tension, fans in the comments were asking questions like, how are your mother and Todd getting along? And Kandi's answer was telling. She said things were fine when the kids had their school graduation. They were all cordial that day. But when she returned from a recent trip, her mother went right back to not being on good terms with her or Todd. She said it in a way that suggested this wasn't new. It wasn't surprising. It was something she had learned to tolerate. But the frustration in her voice, the emotional exhaustion, that was new. You could hear it, you could see it. It was like she had finally reached her limit. Like all the years of balancing motherhood, marriage, business, television, family conflict, and public scrutiny had built up, and something finally snapped. What struck viewers the most was when Kandi said, "Y'all don't know what I really deal with." That line right there told everyone that the issues behind the scenes were much deeper than any blog, rumor, or storyline we've seen play out on TV. Another moment that stood out happened back in mid-November when Kandi received a Lifetime Achievement Award at BravoCon. This was a major honor, and she gave a heartfelt speech thanking Todd. She acknowledged that he had been through a lot as her partner, surviving the blogs, the shade, the rumors, the lies, the drama, the reunions. She said he earned the award too. Sounds touching, right? But fans noticed one major detail. She wasn't wearing her wedding ring. Now, plenty of people said, oh, she probably just forgot it, or maybe it didn't match her look, or it's not that big of a deal. But other fans were like, no, this is symbolic. When someone is accepting a career-defining award and they choose not to wear the most symbolic piece of jewelry from their spouse, that means something. Some people believe she was already emotionally done by that point. Others think they were already separated, but choosing not to announce it until the paperwork was finalized. Kandi and Todd have always been business partners as well as spouses. They've opened multiple restaurants and entertainment ventures together, some successful, some not. And while they seem to work well as a team publicly, people close to the situation say that mixing business and marriage can be a major strain, especially when both partners have strong personalities, strong visions, and strong work ethics. They also came into the relationship with children from previous relationships, then had children together, creating a blended family with multiple dynamics at play. Add in fame, constant filming, financial pressures, public scrutiny, and a mother-in-law who openly disapproved, and it's easy to see how a marriage, any marriage, could start to crack. Now, here's the part everyone wants to know. Why did they really split? And the truth is this. We do not have an official reason yet. There are rumors, tons of them. There are theories regarding infidelity, money disagreements, business tension, family conflict, emotional distance, and more. But without concrete evidence or a statement from either of them addressing the cause, all we can do is look at the patterns. What we do know is that the tension with Mama Joyce was ongoing and likely exhausting. Kandi was expressing more frustration publicly than she ever has before. She began using language like protecting my peace and focusing on my growth, which often signals emotional detachment from a relationship. She stopped wearing her ring in multiple appearances. Their banter online seemed less engaged, less playful, and more distant in recent months. Will the real reason come out? Probably. These things usually do. and you all know that if it does, I will be right here breaking it all down for you. Now I have to ask, are you surprised? Because if you've been watching my coverage on this channel, then you know the writing has been on the wall for a while now. I wasn't rooting for their divorce, of course. No one wants to see a long marriage end, but I also wasn't ignoring the signs. Many of you commented over the months saying you sensed a shift, and now here we are. Whatever the truth is, I hope both of them can find peace, healing, and stability, especially for the sake of their children. Divorce is never easy, even when it's mutual, even when it's necessary. To fans who respected her privacy, this looked like a woman protecting her peace. To skeptics, it looked like a woman protecting a truth she didn't want public. And Todd's silence added another layer. Without a strong rebuttal or emotional statement, he became a blank space in the narrative, neither confirming nor denying anything, neither embracing nor rejecting public curiosity. His absence became part of the suspense itself. Eventually, the attention shifted from accusations to implications. People began analyzing the situation not through facts, but through optics. They questioned why everyone around the couple seemed unusually quiet. They wondered why industry peers weren't jumping in with support or clarity. They noticed the restraint, not dramatic silence, but strategic silence, and concluded that something in the story wasn't aligning with the calm explanations being offered. But here's the truth. Silence doesn't always indicate scandal. Sometimes silence protects complexity, situations too layered or personal to compress into a headline. As weeks passed, the conversation didn't fade. Instead, it settled into the public consciousness in a way that few divorce narratives do. Fans became invested not because of evidence, but because the situation never reached resolution. There was no detailed explanation, no dramatic plot twist, no emotional unloading. Just a quiet, deliberate ending paired with unanswered questions. The rumor, the one with no basis, didn't gain more power, but it also didn't die. It became less of a claim and more of a placeholder, a symbol of the missing information people believed they were entitled to. It represented confusion, suspicion, and the desire to fill in a narrative that felt half-finished. What complicated things further was the way Kandi held herself throughout the aftermath. She remained composed, professional, and resilient. Her strength was obvious, but to some, that strength read as emotional distance. And in the world of celebrity storytelling, composure is often misinterpreted as evasion. Todd's neutrality only deepened the ambiguity. With neither party shaping the narrative, the story became shaped by the public. And when the public creates a story, it becomes more about feeling than fact. Eventually, the central question shifted from what happened to why does this feel unfinished? The audience wasn't chasing truth anymore, they were chasing closure. At this point, the conversation surrounding Kandi and Todd isn't driven by scandal, it's driven by expectation. Fans expect celebrities to explain themselves, to share their pain, to offer closure, to perform vulnerability. And when a public figure chooses privacy, the audience interprets it as a puzzle to be solved instead of a boundary to be respected. Some believe the divorce happened exactly as Kandi described, two people quietly going their separate ways. Others believe the intentional phrasing, strategic silence, and emotional distance indicate something more. Neither group has proof, both groups have interpretations. The question now is not what happened between Kandi Burruss and Todd Tucker. The question is, how much meaning do we assign to silence? Because in a culture that demands instant answers, silence becomes a story of its own. Sometimes it looks like strength. Other times it looks like concealment. Most often, it looks like whatever the audience already believes. So now it's your turn. Do you think this divorce was exactly what Kandi described? private, respectful, and simple? Or do you think the careful wording, the guarded tone, and the refusal to address rumors directly suggest there's more beneath the surface? Is the internet manufacturing a scandal, or noticing cracks that were always there? Drop your thoughts in the comments, not reactions, but reflections. Read other perspectives, challenge your assumptions, and pay attention to how different the same silence can sound depending on what you expect from it. If you value stories that explore the gray areas, stories that don't rush to judgment, make sure you like this video and subscribe. Turn on notifications so you don't miss the next development, because this chapter isn't fully closed. Not every truth arrives loudly. Some come quietly and wait to be understood.